What's the first thing you think of when I say Napoleon Bonaparte? If you said, short, angry French guy, congratulations! You've been successfully brainwashed by 200-year-old British propaganda. Because Napoleon wasn't short. He was literally taller than the average Frenchman. And we're about to find out how one salty British cartoonist with a pen trolled him so hard that the lie is still around 200 years later. But first, let's set the scene. It's 1821. Napoleon just died. His doctor walks in to record his height for the death certificate. He pulls out his measuring stick and goes, 5 feet 2 inches, and writes it down. Fast forward to Britain. Some guy reads the report and goes, "Ha! I knew it! Napoleon was a tiny little man, 5'2". He was basically a child." Except, those were French inches, not British inches. You see, France and Britain were at war for 20 years, and they couldn't even agree on how long an inch was. Because of course they couldn't. A French inch was 2.7 centimeters. A British inch was 2.54. So Napoleon's 5'2" in French is actually 5'6" in British, or 169 centimeters. Now, is 5'6" tall? But the average Frenchman back then was 5'5". Napoleon was above average. For comparison, James Madison was 5'4", and nobody called him short. But Napoleon? Oh, he's the tiny one with anger issues. So how did everyone get this so wrong? Well, 3 things happened. Thing number 1, the nickname. Picture this. Napoleon's on the battlefield. His soldiers are cheering. "Le petit caporal! Le petit caporal!" Now, a British soldier hears this and goes, "Did they just call him little?" "Ha! The French general is short!" Except petite in this context means our guy, or the people's general. It's a term of endearment. But sure, let's ignore context and just assume it's about his height. Thing number 2. Napoleon loved tall bodyguards. His imperial guard had a minimum height of 6 feet. So every public appearance, he's standing next to absolute giants. Imagine this scene. Napoleon walks out. "Gentlemen, today we conquer Europe." His guards standing behind him are like 7 feet tall with massive bearskin hats. Napoleon looks like he brought his dads to work. British observers watching through telescopes. "Look at him. He's tiny. Look how small he is next to his own men." Yeah, no kidding. He's standing next to the 1800s equivalent of NBA players. Even his wife Josephine was taller than him. Picture this conversation. "Josephine, why do you wear such tall shoes?" "Because I like being taller than you." Everyone is taller than me. My guards, my generals, my brothers, even the furniture feels tall. Which brings us to thing number 3. The real reason everyone thinks Napoleon was short. James Gillray, British cartoonist, professional hater, and the man who waged a one-man propaganda war against Napoleon that was so effective, we're still talking about it. From 1798 to 1815, Gillray drew hundreds of cartoons, and in every single one, Napoleon is comically, absurdly, ridiculously small, like 3 feet tall, standing on stools, throwing tantrums. Gillray created Little Boney, and it stuck. Picture Gillray in his studio. "Right, what should I draw today? Oh, I know, Napoleon, but shorter, and angrier, and standing on a stool trying to reach a globe. Brilliant!" His assistant walks in. "Sir, don't you think you're being a bit repetitive? That's the 15th Napoleon is short joke this month." Legacy? Mark my words, in 200 years, everyone will think Napoleon was tiny. That seems unlikely. Trust me, I'm about to make this man's height more famous than his battles. And his most famous cartoon? The Plum Pudding in Danger. Picture this. Napoleon and British Prime Minister William Pitt sitting at a table with a giant globe between them, carved like a dessert. Pitt is drawn tall, lean, just towering over everything, calmly carving off the ocean with a trident fork. "I'll take the seas, thank you very much." Napoleon is drawn as this tiny, angry little guy, barely reaching the table, desperately stabbing at Europe with his sword knife. Give me, mine!" He looks like a toddler at Thanksgiving who can't reach the turkey. These cartoons were everywhere. Shop windows, taverns, coffee houses, everyone's talking about them. "Have you seen Gillray's latest? Napoleon's so short, ha ha ha." But have you ever actually seen Napoleon in person? Well, no. Then how do you know he's short? Because Gillray drew him short, obviously. And that's the thing. Most Europeans had never seen Napoleon. So Gilray's cartoons became their only reference. And Gilray wasn't just being funny. This was psychological warfare. Make Napoleon look physically small, and people think he's small in every way. Small-minded, petty, weak, just an angry little man with delusions. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The British government was paying Gilray to do this. Picture this meeting in 1797. Mr. Gilray, we have a proposition. How would you like to be on the government payroll? Go on. We'll pay you to draw cartoons making Napoleon look bad. You mean I can insult the French general, get paid for it, and it's patriotic? Precisely. Where do I sign? And it worked. Napoleon himself knew what was happening. Years later, in exile on Elba, someone asks him, Emperor, what was your greatest enemy? Was it the Russians, the Winter, the coalition armies? No, it was James Gilray and his stupid pen. Think about that. Napoleon conquered most of Europe. He won dozens of battles. He crowned himself emperor. And he's worried about a British guy with a pen. But he was right to worry, because those cartoons outlived him. Napoleon dies in 1821. The wars end in 1815. But Little Boney never dies. The image gets passed down, and down, and down. By 1924, psychologists coined the term Napoleon complex, the idea that short men overcompensate with aggression. Picture the conversation. We need a name for when short men act aggressive. How about the Napoleon complex? Perfect, because Napoleon was short and aggressive. Wait, was he actually short? I just assumed. Everyone knows he was short. Did you check? Why would I check? It's Napoleon. Of course he was short. Spoiler alert, they never checked. Modern scientists actually studied this. A 2007 study found that short men were less likely to lose their temper than tall men. They had people duel with sticks and deliberately hit each other's knuckles. The tall guys got angry and hit back more. So not only was Napoleon not short, but the condition named after him doesn't even exist the way people think. Here's the final twist. Napoleon was insecure about lots of things. Picture his inner monologue. Do people think my Corsican accent is weird? Am I legitimate as ruler? Should I have been born in mainland France? Does this hat make me look silly? Wait, why is everyone talking about my height? I'm literally average height. What? The only reason we talk about Napoleon's height is because his enemies convinced the world he was short. It's one of the most successful propaganda campaigns in history. So next time someone mentions Napoleon being short, remember, you're not repeating a fact. You're repeating a 200-year-old meme created by a British propaganda artist who was literally on the government payroll.
Napoleon Bonaparte, 5'6", above average. He conquered Europe not because he was compensating, but because he was brilliant. James Gilray, a cartoonist with a pen and a grudge, and somehow he won. Because here we are, 2 centuries later, still calling Napoleon short. History isn't about facts, it's about who controls the narrative. And in this case, a cartoonist with a sense of humor and a government paycheck beat the Emperor of France. The pen really is mightier than the sword, especially when the government is paying for the ink.